Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach, like Yahushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach, like Yahushai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous forefathers. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to everybody tuning in live. Love Pius, Kiara McDaniel, Kyoko Banyamian, Ephraimite Ak, Yvette McKellar, Anthony Knox, Don Israel, Tapuak, Shalom Williams, Solomon McFadden, Judah Israel, Richard Perez, Yazian David Yehuda Israel, Havel de Israel, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. The topic of this cold cut is the three kingdoms of the eagle, the doomsday clock, and world at war, right? Slakia, the three kingdoms of the eagle, doomsday clock, and the world at war. So you have the Most High sending out these spirits on the earth, working mightily in the minds of these world leaders and in the minds of these kings, in order for them to summon up all of their ammunition, all of their personnel, all of their military equipment, tanks, jets, aircraft carriers, etc., due to the brewing World War III that is coming on the earth. And World War III is a major biblical prophecy documented by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that will take place. It's not just a matter of if, it's a matter of when. A lot of people say it's not going to happen. There's going to be a peace talk. They're finally going to sit at the table and look at the paperwork and do what's best for the human race and do what's best for mankind. World War III will happen, whether people want it to or not, whether people believe it, whether they accept this or not. All things must be fulfilled. And what Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is doing is he's stirring up these leaders according to his power and according to his liking. Right? Didn't Moses say in Proverbs, let's go to Proverbs, Salakia, Proverbs chapter 21. Right? What did Yahweh Bashem Yahushai say first and foremost? Right? About the king's heart. Right? This is Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 1. Right? Let me make sure this is showing. Okay, come. The king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So any leader of the earth that is set up over a small country or a great country, they have been set up not by man, in spite of their democratic political organization or the republic or monarchy or autocracy or whatever government system is set up. Every king, every prime minister, every president, every leader, their mind is set up by the Most High. First of all, their position of authority has been given to them by God. And second of all, any decision point that they make is coming from the Most High. The Most High's heart, it's like the Most High controlled King David's heart, man, to destroy the Philistine. The Most High controlled Hezekiah's heart, man, to pray that the angel or the Most High deliver them from the hand of the Rabshakeh and the Assyrians, man. The Most High, he's with the minds of all these heathen kings. And he turns them wherever he wants them to go. If the Most High want them to go south, like a river could flow north to south, the river could flow however. The Most High can control these leaders to have them march their army north, march their army south. You understand? The Most High can have these waters turn according to his will, just like the minds of these kings. So 1 minute you may think these kings are sitting at the table with talks of peace. They're taking pictures together. They're shaking hands. They're doing a photo shoot. The very next day, the Most High had these kings go to war. Right? Let's go to Daniel 4 and 35. Right? Let's go to Daniel chapter 4 and verse 35. It reads, Well, I mean, this whole thing is good. I'm gonna start at 17, then I'm gonna jump down. Right, Daniel 4 and 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand. It's like this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. So if you didn't read the book of Daniel, then you might think that all of these kings are set up by their own power. Kings are set up predominantly in the ancient world based off of their ancestry. If their father was the king, then they're going to be king. And if his father was king, then he would be king. Then when he has a son, his son is going to be king. Some people think that they're set up because the people gravitate towards them. They're charismatic. They're great with words. They have great ideas, and the people galvanize around the vision of this leader, and they set this guy up. Some world leaders, and to this day, people that dwell amongst men, they believe these leaders are set up by men because they voted, right? Or they put something in the election ballot. No, the Most High, he sets these men up, and he'll give it to whoever he want to give it to, man. You know? Then the Most High run a kingdom out of King Saul and give it to David, where it's written, a neighbor that is better than thou. So didn't the Most High take the kingdom from Sennacherib, Shalmaneser V, Ashurbanipal? Didn't he give it to Nebuchadnezzar of the Babylonians? And then when the last king of the Babylonians, Belshazzar, or Nabonidus was on the throne, or Nabonidus then Belshazzar, who did the Most High set up? The Most High set up Cyrus the Great. And when their last king, Darius III, was on the throne, the Most High killed him and set up Alexander. And so on doesn't happen amongst men, where the Most High sets up one ruler and takes him down, right? So the Lord is setting up NATO. He's setting up the European Union and all these kings so they can go to war with one another. Remember, the Most High, he's a man of war. And Yahweh is his name. So war will never cease on the earth, man, until the kingdom is established, right? This Exodus chapter 15 and 3. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. So you don't think Yahweh, being a man of war, is not going to push World War III? Who do you think pushed World War II on the earth? Who do you think pushed World War II? The Most High did, man. Who do you think is going to push World War III on the earth? The Heavenly Father has the angels orchestrating in the minds of the people to do these things. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. And that's why NATO is saying that they're summoning up 90,000 troops. 90,000 troops for war games. And you got these, every European nation right now, for the most part, Sweden, Russia, Germany, they're all telling their people, get ready for war. Everybody on the earth is telling their own citizens, get ready for war. So this thing is real, man. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 1. Hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. Learn, ye that be judges of the ends of the earth. So the Most High, he's speaking specifically to any men in leadership or authority, right? Chiefly kings. He said here, right? Give ear, you that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of nations. Who rules the people? Right? The so-called illuministic powers that be the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the puppet king Biden, right? The puppet kings Putin, world leaders Kim Jong-un, right? All of these men rule the people. The Lord said, give ear, you that rule the people, and glory in the multitude of nations. For power is given you of the Lord. You see that? And sovereignty from the highest. Who shall try your works and search out your counsels? So the Most High has angels looking at how these leaders are running the earth. Right? Now, a great sign of blessings from the Most High is when you have peace in your kingdom. No kingdom should be constantly at war like America. right? When they're always at war with this nation and they're at war with this nation and they're at war with this nation. No kingdom's success should be predicated on the years of war that they have, right? If you can have peace within your realm, and if you can establish rulership without war, that's well, man. A lot of times the Most High puts war in your kingdom because you're going off, and we're going to show you that, right? So what the Most High is doing is he's judging these world leaders, and no kingdom is running their nation according to the laws and the commandments. Where's the laws and the commandments and the statutes being pushed in Russia? Who's pushing the laws, statutes, and the commandments in the European Union? Who's doing it in America? Who's doing it in the so-called Middle East? Nobody. And the Most High searching out all of their works. These countries are full of pride, sodomy, lust, covetousness, idolatry, and just outright blatant wickedness. And the Most High sees that. And that's why he's judging all these nations, bringing them together so they can kill one another. And ultimately, he's going to bring his son to finish the job. Right? Verse 4. Because being ministers of his kingdom, you have not judged the right, nor kept the law, nor walked after the counsel of the Most High. See that? Horribly and speedily shall he come upon you, for a sharp judgment shall be to them that be in high places. So the Most High has horrible, sharp judgment, and it's going to come fast on the earth to all of these world leaders because they are in the high places. And if you're in a high place, you're supposed to acknowledge the Most High. See, one thing about these other kings, when you read the scriptures, they knew about the Most High. Right? Nebuchadnezzar, he acknowledged the Most High. Right? In the book of Daniel, let me get that real quick. Cyrus, he acknowledged the Most High. All these kings, they know about the Lord, man. Right? Daniel chapter 4 and verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. So he knew about the Lord after he got abased and checked. You don't think these other nations read this account? They had our book, they had our records. They know about Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. There's a video footage of Vladimir Putin with Russian icons darker than them, knowing that the real Jews are the so-called black men, and the Israelites are the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American man, woman, and child. So they know about the Most High, but yet they don't acknowledge him. So the Most High, he's getting up with these nations, right? He is getting up with these nations. Let's go to Ezra chapter 7, right? Ezra chapter 7 and verse, let's start at, this whole thing is good. Ezra chapter 7 and 13, right? Here's the king Artaxerxes making a decree. I make a decree that all they of the people of Israel and of his priests and Levites in my realm, which are minded of their own free will to go up to Jerusalem, go with thee. For as much as thou art sent of the king and of the 7 counselors to inquire concerning Judah and Jerusalem, according to the law of thy God, which is in thy hand. So he knew about the God of Israel. And Ezra was sent on a mission, right, to go inquire and make sure that everything was being restored in its government of tolerance, right? Right, let's read on. Salakia. And to carry the silver and gold which the king and his counselors have freely offered unto the God of Israel, whose habitation is in Jerusalem. So again, they acknowledge the Most High, these heathen kings. Nowadays, they don't, right? And the Most High, he's judging them for it, right? Go to Revelation chapter 16. Revelation chapter 16, because what do you see going on? Right, where is it? Let's pull this up. NATO's biggest military, right? NATO 90,000 troops. NATO to hold biggest drills since Cold War with 90,000 troops. You don't hold a military drill, just for kicks and laughter. The amount of logistics that it takes, equipment, expenses, traveling, right? Processes that have to be implemented to get this thing to be fine-tuned. It's not, they don't do stuff like that for fun. They know all of NATO. NATO, and we'll dive into NATO. NATO is your North Atlantic Treaty Organization, for those who may not know. Right? It's an amalgamation of Western European countries, along with America, the European, it's like in Canada, to be able to come together and to stop a threat of Russia and other world powers. Right? And it's really just the 10 horns, and we'll touch on that. Right? So NATO, believe it or not, plays a major significant role in biblical prophecy, just like the Egyptians did, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medes, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans. You don't think that the Most High set up and put forth in the word of God the mighty powers of the world that be today? You think it just stopped at the Romans in the time of Yahushua? No, these kingdoms and these world powers that rule the earth now have been prophesied from the days of old. So NATO plays an integral role in the end of the world and bringing about the second coming of Yahushua. And they're holding, and the Most High put it in their minds to do this, to hold their biggest drills since the Cold War. And what was the Cold War about? The Cold War was about the threat of the Soviet Union creating an atomic bomb to destroy Germany and the West, Western European countries, and America. And it was pretty much a timeline from late or early 1950s all the way up until, some would say, even the early 80s, right? Nevertheless, they fought and they competed over technology, military might, and social influence throughout the world, right? And right now they're saying there's a Cold War 2.0 going on. So NATO to hold biggest drills since Cold War with 90,000 troops. Let's read this. NATO is launching its largest exercise since the Cold War, rehearsing how U.S. troops could reinforce European allies and countries bordering Russia and on the alliance's eastern flank if a conflict were to flare up with a quote-unquote near-peer adversary. Who's the near-peer adversary? Russia. All right. Some 90,000 troops are due to join the steadfast Defender 2024 drills that will run through May. The alliance's top commander, Chris Cavoli, said on Thursday. So this thing is real. And we're going to go into the footage of what they're talking about. Let's go to first and foremost, let's go to Revelation. Right? Let's go to Revelation, the 16th chapter. Right? It's like I wanted to get this too to show how if you don't move in the will of the Most High will inflict you with wars. Right? And he will have your adversaries attempt to chop your head off, man. Right? This is Second Chronicles chapter 16 and verse 9. For the eyes of Yahweh run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly. Therefore, from henceforth thou shalt have wars. So this was speaking first about King Asa. He would trust in man instead of trusting in the Most High. The Most High judged him and said, the angels are watching everything you do. They go to and fro through the earth. They bring a report about your works to the third heaven. And if your works are fitting and pleasing in the eyes of the Most High, then he'll show himself strong and he'll be with you, right, on your behalf. But if you do foolishly, like all of these world powers have done, as they destroyed the air, destroyed the water, right? Destroyed the minds of the people, done all types of witchcraft on the earth. If you have done foolishly, the Lord said, therefore, from henceforth, thou shalt have wars. And that's why there's nothing but wars brewing up on the earth right now, because these nations have done foolishly. And they haven't sought after Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Right? This is Revelation chapter 16 and verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the river thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Right? So your kings of the east, and we've covered this before, this is your RSII alliance, your Russia, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Also part of that is your SCO, your Shanghai Corporation Organization. Right? That's your modern day kings of the east. So you have your NATO, which we'll touch on, which is your 10 horns. And then you have your kings of the east, which is the modern day name, because kings of the east is not something you can look up and find on a website, or it's a geopolitical group, right, or a military alliance that people know of today. If you went to a press conference, or you talk to a senator and you ask them about, okay, well, what about the kings of the east? They're going to look at you like you got three heads, because that's the biblical name. Their modern day name is what? You have your RSII alliance. Let's pull that up. And you have your SCO. Right? Some would say BRICS, but BRICS carries a lot of other different nations throughout the world. Your main East nations, Russia, Syria, Iran, Iraq coalition. This is the main part of your kings of the East. All right, this is a military organization. And when these nations, when World War III kick off, your RSII alliance is going to be put into effect. They are a military alliance. This is not just for trade and gold and silver and, the US dollar. And their headquarters are in Baghdad, right? Their headquarters are in Baghdad, the capital city of Iraq, and the second largest city in the Arab world after Cairo, which is in Egypt, right? So you have your kings of the East, and the Most High is drying up that river Euphrates, that they can send their military weapons and their military drills that they do, because they do military drills too, out into the so-called Middle East, right? Out into the so-called Middle East. So you have your RSII alliance, the Russia, Syria, Iran, Iraq coalition, also referred to as the 4+1, in which the +1 refers to Hezbollah of Lebanon, is a joint intelligence sharing cooperation between opponents of the Islamic State, with operation rooms in Damascus and Baghdad. It was formed as a consequence of an agreement reached at the end of September 2015 between Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria to help cooperate in collecting information about the terrorist Daesh group, right? So you have your RSII alliance. Now check this out. It also says, Salakia, the United States, along with its NATO and Arab allies, all of which have been hostile to the four countries and Hezbollah since the start of the civil war, have criticized the coalition, right? So they're against that. NATO is against the RSII alliance. So rather things kick off and Russia goes and they expand, right, which they may or may not do, or rather it goes down in the Middle East, we do understand biblically that as of now, as long as this military alliance exists, they're going to play also an integral role in biblical prophecy. Why? Because they have military in the Middle East, to fight against the king of the north, right? That you read about in Daniel 11, and they can go against the 10 horns. And with that, you also have your SCO, right? Your Shanghai Corporation Organization, right? Let's pull this up, right? Your Shanghai Corporation Organization. And you can see all of their members: China, India, Iran. A lot of these are BRICS. BRICS is a political organization, right? This is more of a political organization as well, and economic, right? China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, right? And they have other partners as well. So when you have Iran and Russia always backing up one another, along with China, this also goes into the kings of the East. Okay? So your RSII alliance and your SCO are your main parties that make up the kings of the East. Now, when you go back to Revelation, the 16th chapter, it reads, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up." And the water is drying up. We pull it up all the time. Right? We go into it and we show it how it looked on a map and how it looked, 50 years ago compared to what it looks like now. It's dried up. You can find that on your own. That the way of the kings of the East might be prepared. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. So there are actual demons that are working on the earth right now. And that's what they're doing, this military drill with 90,000 troops. That's why Russia is doing their war. That's why Iran is constantly at war with the state of Israel, the Houthis of Yemen, Hezbollah, right? In Lebanon. All these powers are being influenced by spirits, right? Now, these spirits are really coming from who? The dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, right? So the dragon, beast, and the false prophet, they move in the same spirit, all right? First of all, your ancient dragon was the Roman Empire. Your modern day dragon is dealing with who? NATO and the EU. Same thing as the beast. You have one beast in Revelation 13 and 11, which is America. You have another beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, which is still your modern day NATO and the EU. And your false prophet is the religious institution, right? Your Roman Catholic Church and every sub or every branch that comes out of that. Every form of Christianity, every denomination, everything that comes from that of Esau's religious institution of sorcery and witchcraft is working on the minds of the people, mainly through the media, right? And everybody's being influenced at these summits to think that they have a stake when it comes to being the next global power. And they're all getting ready to gather them to battle of that great day of God Almighty. And that great day is Armageddon. That is the great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. So you got to understand that this thing, about a nuke could drop any day. Any day, man. See, the evil servant said within his heart, my Lord delayeth is coming. Right? So like he may think that he has years and years, and this thing could kick off and speed up within a matter of seconds. So you have to constantly keep watch over your spirit, keep watch over your household, keep watch over these demons that are trying to sift you out, keep watch over the prophecies as well, to ensure that you know what the Most High is doing on the earth. And keep your garment clean, right? Meaning keep your spirit clean. Keep this truth pure and undefiled. And he gathered them, Revelation 16:16, together to a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, right? Gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, Armageddon in the Hebrew, which means mountain of troops or soldiers, right? Now, let's deal with NATO. I want to get this quick clip of NATO and them talking about war, right? So let's pull this up. Right, let's go into NATO, and I want to go into this, what this guy actually said. Man, this guy actually told them, get ready for war. All right, let's do this one first. So they're not playing no games. Jake, you're playing games, and you're worried about folly and vanity, right? So I may play this straight through. I may pause it. Right, let's see. So the topic of this video was NATO warns of all-out war with Russia in the next 20 years. And the Mossad, see, they say 20 years. That's their time. They're not on the time of the Mossad. You don't know what the Mossad is going to do. But these guys are top guys, man. These aren't guys that are off the street. These are generals, admirals, captains, lieutenants. Now, I want you to listen to what this second guy said. I believe this is the clip I want.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the Military Committee Chiefs of Defense session has just drawn to a close. We will start off this press conference with an opening statement.
We today announced the kickoff of Exercise Steadfast Defender 2024, which commences next week and runs through May. Steadfast Defender 24 will be the largest NATO exercise in decades, with participation from approximately 90,000 forces from all
90,000 forces. 90,000 forces.
All 31 allies, plus our good partner, Sweden. The alliance will demonstrate its ability to reinforce the Euro-Atlantic area via transatlantic movement of forces from North America. This reinforcement will occur during a simulated emerging conflict scenario against a near-peer adversary. Steadfast Defender 24 will be a clear demonstration of our unity, our strength, and our determination to protect each other, to protect, of course, our values and the rules-based international order.
Industrial base that is able to produce weapons and ammunition fast enough. Sorry, the big difference with a year ago, I would say, Terry, is that there's a lot of things that have happened in the armed forces and in the defense organizations. What hasn't happened is in our societies, the understanding that it is more than the military that has to be able to operate in a conflict or in a war. It is the whole of society that will get involved, whether we like it or not.
You hear that? He said everybody's going to, so pretty much, not just the military has to get ready for war, but if you live in a NATO country, then you got to get ready for war. Now, you can say, well, I'm glad that's over there in Europe and Russia. No, America's a NATO country for now. Right? So they're telling these people, look, let's hear what this guy is saying, man.
The defense organizations. What hasn't happened is in our societies, the understanding that it is more than the military that has to be able to operate in a conflict or in a war. It is the whole of society that will get involved, whether we like it or not. That realization, we didn't talk about that much a year ago. If you look back to last year, what has happened in our alliance with regard to the battle groups that we set up, if you look back to the training, the fact that we now have Steadfast Defender with 90,000 troops, that is a record number. That is a record number of troops that we can bring to bear and have an exercise with in that size. Across the alliance, across the ocean, from the US to Europe in Europe. That is a big change.
AFP and then at the back.
But I want to get the part where he said, "Get ready for war."
Thanks a lot.
me
I guess
see.
for Admiral Bow, for General Cavoli.
People find it a surprise and as a result buy a radio on batteries. That is great. It is part of the package that the Swedish government is talking about. You need to have water, you need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries to make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like,
You see that? But he's telling them, because what Sweden did, Sweden is about to be a member of NATO. But Sweden, along with Germany, they're telling their citizens, start buying supplies. Start buying. Because you need to survive the first 36 hours. Flashlights, water, batteries. That's what the NATO general is saying.
Admiral Bow, for General Cavoli.
people find it a surprise and as a result buy a radio on batteries. That is great. It is part of the package that the Swedish government is talking about. You need to have water, you need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries to make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that. That's simple things. But it starts there. The realization that not everything is plannable, not everything is going to be hunky-dory in the next 20 years. I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace.
Right, you see that? Even Esau is telling you, man, look at his face, man. Right, he looks nervous. Even he's telling you that it's not a given that we could be at peace. So these people who are playing around, right, taking his truth for a joke, he's letting you know at any moment it can go down. And they're telling their people over there within your first 36 hours, you better hope you make it. They're telling their citizens, get ready. Get what you need.
And that's why we have the plans.
Thank you all very much. That's all.
Right? He told them to play that part one more time.
Story in the next 20 years. I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace.
It's not a get. Well, you won't be in peace, man, because war will come on the earth. Yahweh Shah prophesied of it, man, of wars and rumors of wars. In Matthew the 24th chapter, Mark the 13th chapter, Luke the 21st chapter, and many other precepts alike speak explicitly of wars that are going to come on the earth. Right, now let's play another clip. Right, there's another clip I want to play about NATO, Slovakia, and what they want to do. Right, so let's do this war game. Right, I believe I want this one right here. All right, so let's play this. Now this is NATO's biggest military exercise, Steadfast Defender 2024 drills.
With the latest with what's happening between Iran and Pakistan, the geopolitical landscape, it's getting increasingly uncertain and unstable. And in light of this, NATO has announced the biggest military drills in decades. Shivan has all the details. Over to you, Shivan.
Thanks, Him. We're going to shift our focus now from West Asia towards the European side, where, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war continues. Well, as the war between the two nations, it bogs down, NATO is launching its largest exercise since the Cold War. And today, I'll walk you through the details of NATO.
Even the Elamites are talking about it. Elon is covering this thing, man. This is world news. This is the biggest military drill the Roman Empire has ever done in the history of the Roman Empire. From its ancient time as the Roman kingdom to its time as being a republic to the Roman Empire with Octavian, to the time of the Renaissance, all the way up until now. This is the largest Roman Empire gathering of troops for a military drill in history.
NATO's upcoming military exercise. Now, in the months-long war games, NATO will be hosting the Steadfast Defender 2024 drills. The games are expected to last until the end of May. The exercise aims to demonstrate NATO's ability to rapidly deploy forces from North America and other parts of the alliance to reinforce the defense of Europe.
Right. So basically, it's for America. How quick can America and Europe come together to fight against Russia, Iran, China, and other world powers? That's the whole purpose of it, right? That is the entire purpose of the war games. All right. Now I wanted one more clip. Right. I wanted one more clip. That's the whole purpose. All right. So we have to cover this news because this thing is real, man. Right. This thing is real. All right. Let's see. Okay, Salaki, I had another clip. Bear with me. All right. That's not what I want. All right, that's not what I want. I had another one, so bear with me. Okay, let's play this one. So check this out. Now, this is Don't Threaten Us. Russia warns as NATO announces largest military exercise since the Cold War. So Russia, they said, don't threaten us. Who the hell do you think you are, man? So this isn't a joke, right? This isn't a joke. They got tanks, they got RPG missiles and rockets, they got helicopters, they got the Navy out there. See that? 50 warships. We got air combat drills. Tanks. See, NATO drills expected to be held in nations close to Russia. Because there was documentation that went out that said Russia is going to try to invade Europe. You got Putin. He doesn't look worried, man. This guy never looks worried. He's not worried about NATO. Right? These guys that drink a bottle of vodka and get ready, and they're not thinking about this guy, NATO. So he issued a warning back to him, man, about their drills.
Everyone only says that Putin is threatening a nuclear bomb, although not once has such a thing been said, unlike the Europeans and Americans. The same Germans said that the North Atlantic Alliance also has nuclear weapons.
So they're pretty much, long story short, fighting a war over who's going to have the most nuclear weapons, who's going to control Eastern Europe. Russia is expanding, as well as NATO. They're trying to expand, and they're clashing between Eastern Europe and Ukraine, right? And that's why you have that tension going on with NATO and the EU, right? So what is NATO, right? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO was prophesied in the Bible, right? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter. NATO is prophesied in the Holy Bible. Now you can say, well, I've never seen the word NATO, right? I don't know about that. All I see is Rome and Babylon. Well, these are your 10 toes. Remember, the Lord gave a vision to Nebuchadnezzar concerning 4 major kingdoms that will come on the earth, right? The Babylonians, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks and the Romans. And you had the statue, and the statue had 10 toes. And the 10 toes are the 10 horns, the 10 common markets, the European Union. And the European Union, even though it's a political organization and an economic organization, its military counterpart is NATO. So I want to see if I can get I always have trouble finding a good statue, right, with the 10 toes. Let me see if I can just do the 10 toes. All right. Let's see. Okay, 10 toes. Now, this is not the best statue, but nevertheless, you read about the 10 toes. So your 10 toes represent, it represents NATO and the EU. That's what the 10 toes represent, right? The 10 toes represent NATO and the EU. They are prophesied as the last major power to be on the earth. They are prophesied again as the last major power to be on the earth. You can read about that in the book of Daniel, or one of the last major powers to be on the earth. This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40. And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break and bruise. So that's speaking about the Roman Empire, which was strong as iron, because iron, like we've covered before, iron is stronger than brass. Iron is also stronger than silver, and iron is stronger than gold. So iron, being a Roman Empire, they were able to take down every other power and kingdom that ruled before them. And they broke them in pieces, and they became the sole rulers of the known world at the time. Right? Here's your Roman Empire. At its peak, at its greatest extent. So they broke in pieces and bruised. Let's go back to Daniel. You can see all their provinces, right? And all those different regions that they had. Egyptus and Italia, Hispania, etc., right? Let's go on back to Daniel. So the Most High said that the Roman Empire will come on the scene and they will break and bruise. Verse 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So when you look at that 90,000 troops of NATO, that's the strength of iron, because that's the strength of Rome's military. Rome's military might is still displayed throughout the earth to this day, throughout NATO and their military might. That's the strength of iron. But this kingdom, another point is, it's also known as the feet and toes. Why the feet and the toes? Remember, this statue was set up in such a particular fashion. It was designed through divine intelligence of Yahweh, Bashmi Shai himself, to show how kingdoms fall throughout time and how weaker these kingdoms get politically, but how stronger they get on a military level. Now, you can see that in this statue. And like I said, if you want to see an in-depth breakdown of Daniel 2, we've done that, right? So we'll cover this. Now, the head of gold right? I want to get a better one, right? Okay, so your head of gold is your Babylonian Empire. Now, it's gold due to the amount of power that the king had. Because gold, even though it's a weak metal, when it comes to war, it's still a more valuable, precious metal. It has more prestige and honor with gold. So the rulership of the Babylonians was a gold-like rulership. Nebuchadnezzar himself was a god. He was treated as a god. He was feared as a god. You understand? He was immortalized as a god. Nebuchadnezzar and his descendants. And then it went down to silver. So the power of the government got weaker and it lost value. As money diminishes in value throughout time, so do the kingdoms and their government and their authority and power. That's why I went from gold to silver, because the Medes and the Persians, which are the silver, they had a weaker government. First of all, there was a joint government between the Medes and the Persians. And another factor that made them weaker was that they can actually check the king. And they could tell the king, hey, look, you know, Darius, you can't do that. According to the law, the Medes and the Persians that alter, if not, you are not allowed to go back on your word. Let me get that real quick. Right? Let's prove it. Let's not just talk about it. Let's prove it. Right? Let's go to Daniel chapter 6. Right? This is Daniel chapter 6 and verse 12. Then they came near. Actually, I want to get down. Salakia. Verse 15. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, because the king wanted to deliver Daniel. Now, Salakia, know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. So they were checking the king. You think they could check Nebuchadnezzar and tell him what he can and can't do? No, he was a god on earth. But it got weaker, and the power of the king got weaker and lost value to the point where these people could actually check the king and tell him what the hell he can and can't do. Another reason why the Persians had more of a silver-like government is because they had a tolerant government, right? They had a tolerant government and they accepted all religions and all customs and all people. Why do you think Artaxerxes gave Ezra the decree to go back to Jerusalem? He said he told Ezra to go back. I need you to go back and make sure y'all are following y'all God, pretty much, man. Ezra wasn't the only leader of a nation that was sent back to his people. When you go through the history, Artaxerxes and these kings, they sent men into Egypt to make sure they were serving their gods. They were sending all these people back to their lands to make sure the people are serving their gods. So they had a tolerant government as well. Pull that up. See that? What? As long as conquered people paid their taxes and recognized Persian control, they would be allowed to practice their own religion. You see that? So you could pretty much do what you wanted to do in the Persian Empire. You couldn't do that under the Babylonians. The Babylonians, you had to serve Nebuchadnezzar. He said at what time you hear the instruments of music, the dulcimer, the sackbut, the psaltery, the flute, the pipe, the harp, etc. You have to bow down and serve that image. Not in Persia. No, in Persia, you had liberty. Right? That's why the government got weaker. And it went from gold, then it went to silver. Right? Even though silver is stronger than gold, because the Persians were stronger than the Babylonians, the government got weaker. And then it went down to the thigh and belly of brass, because the thigh and the belly of brass are the Greeks. And the Greek had a weaker government than the Persians, because the Greeks had city-states and various leagues with their own agenda and their own goal. Some of the Greeks fought hand in hand with the Persians. Some of the Greeks, like Sparta and Athens, they fought against the Persians. The Greeks also had a democracy where they gave power to the people. That's a weak government where the people have influence on how things go. So the government got weaker with the Greeks, even though brass is stronger than silver. You see that? And then it went down to the Romans. The Romans are the legs of iron, right? So your legs of iron are the Romans. Now, iron is less valuable than, see, I don't like that image. All right, let's see. All right, this is decent. All right, this is cool right here. Now, this is iron. Now, iron is stronger than brass because the Romans were indeed stronger than the Greeks. But iron is weaker than brass in terms of a government structure because the government got weaker when it went to the Romans. The Romans were divided. You had an Eastern Roman Empire, you had a Western Roman Empire. They had a republic, they had assembly, they had magistrates, they had councils, right? So the Roman government was a lot weaker than that of the Greeks. And then you have the time of the 10 toes. This is NATO and the EU. And they're so weak, they have clay. The iron that was their strength is now clay. They're part iron and part clay. Right? Now, clay is inferior to iron. So the clay-like spirit of this government is the weakness of NATO and the EU. Now you can say, well, I thought they were strong. They had 90,000 troops and they're doing war games. Right, but when you look at and study how NATO was set up, it's an amalgamation of 31 countries, I believe. And every country has their own government. How can you have unison when everything is different in every country? When you go to America, laws are different than that of France. They're different than that of Germany and England, right? And Belgium and the Netherlands. The morals are different. The language is different. The culture is different. The dress is different. The customs are different. The penalties are different. Everything's different and strange. They dress different. So this kingdom is weak. They're divided. You got some of the countries on this side of the Atlantic. Then you got some of the countries on this side of the Atlantic. How the hell can you have a government divided like that and expect them to be strong? No, they have a clay-like government. Definitely not gold. A clay-like government. They have the strength of iron, which we'll talk about. That's their military might, right? So they're still strong like Rome because they're Rome back on the earth, but their government is clay, right? Their government is clay. And one more point about this statue that I like to touch on is that through the infinite wisdom of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, he has also showed you that throughout the course of time, kingdoms get weaker, not simply based off of the metals, but based on how the human body is set up. And as the human body starts from the head to the feet, it gets divided more and more as you go down. That's how this is set up. It gets divided. And the more division you have, the more weakness you have. Let's go to the book of Matthew. Right? Chapter 12 real quick. 24. Right? Matthew chapter 12 and 24. But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils." So they thought Yahushua was casting out demons through witchcraft. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, "Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand." Right? So do you think NATO and modern day Rome is going to stand? Even if they do a drill with 90,000 troops, right? No, that they're going to fall. The prophecy says that even they're going to split from America, you know? And we'll touch on that too. And they're going to hate the whore and eat her flesh and make her naked and desolate and shall burn her with fire. So that they're already going to be divided according to the will of the Most High. And they're already divided right now. So when you look at that statue again, the body gets divided. So the head, you have one head, and then it breaks down to the arms and the chest of silver. And your arms are more divided, right? Then and your chest. And then it breaks down to your thighs. So your thighs are spread apart. If you stand, your thighs are totally divided. So at least your arms are connected to your chest. There's some type of connection, even though they're far apart. But your thighs and your belly are not so. Your belly's your damn upper body. Your thighs are now your lower body. And your thighs are divided. Right? And then your legs are more divided. And your leg has more members than your thighs. More bones. Right? Further apart. And then your toes are the most divided because you got 10 digits. Separated on 2 separate legs. So the anatomy of prophecy is letting you know that throughout the course of time and ages, these kingdoms are going to be more and more divided from the time of the Babylonians all the way to the time of NATO and the EU. That's what they're called, the 10 toes. They're also called the 10 horns. All right. So let's go back to Daniel, the 2nd chapter. Right. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 2 as we touch on NATO and the EU and biblical prophecy. Right. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 33. His legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay and break them to pieces, which means Yahushua is going to return to destroy the remnant of NATO's army that's going to be in the Middle East, right? And we'll read about that as well. Now let's jump down because Yahushua is that stone cut out without hands. Let's go back to Daniel 2 and verse 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be what? Shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And why is it iron mixed with clay? Because NATO is Rome back on the earth again. But they're clay because that's their clay-like government where they can't cleave one to another, where they're constantly divided. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And the kingdom is partly strong. To be able to muster up 90,000 troops, you're still partly strong. To have generals all on one accord, you're still partly strong from a military standpoint, but from an economic, political, social standpoint, they are broken. From a prophetic standpoint, they are broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So iron and clay can never mix. You can't have strength and military might and then have a government that's divided. You can't mix them together to have a nation, to have rulership. How are you going to have a unified military organization called NATO, but the political side of it is clay? Well, the political side is what's going to fuel the military side. That's how it works in any economy, any organization. When you study Israel, our military strength is rooted within laws, statutes, and commandments. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 20. And our laws is our so-called political system. So how are we going to have a military of Israel and then the laws and the commandments are completely different than what the military is doing? That's out of order. That's iron not being mixed with clay. All right, let's prove it though. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 20, right? Deuteronomy chapter 20. What does it say? Laws of warfare, right? So we have laws on how we're governed as a nation. Laws, statutes, and commandments. What you must do to be obedient to your creator, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and what you must not do. Right? These things are instilled and ingrained within our people based off of a covenant made with our Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and our fathers. And every law intertwines with us, and there are laws that show us how to go to war. See, NATO, they go to war, but their political side is divided. Because America has their own constitution. It's different than that what England has, what France and Germany has. That's why it says iron cannot be mixed with clay. Right? So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll read the first 3 verses, right? Deuteronomy chapter 20 and 1. And even when you look at Israel, one more point is that our top military leader was also our top political leader. So there was no way of division. And who's that? Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. On the earth, that was played out as the king. The king was the top political leader. He was the top judge in the land. When it came to politics, how a government was ran, how things were established, let's look at David. David set up the priesthood. He orchestrated how the temple was going to be made. He was the judge in the land, but he was also their military general. But NATO is not like that, man. That's why they're divided and they're going to fall. Deuteronomy 20 and 1. When thou goest out to battle against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots, and a people more than thou, be not afraid of them. For Yahweh thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be, when ye are come nigh into the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people. And not that we have a religion, but if you were to think of it of that nature, even our religious leaders are on one accord. Our religious leaders, our political leaders, and our military leaders were all at war at the same time. But again, in America, you got religions and NATO has customs and traditions, and some people want war, some people don't war. Some people are fighting against the government, they're rebelling. I mean, it's completely out of whack. When you really look at how our government is established and compared to these nations, I mean, come on now. Right? We're not just gold. We're chrysoprasus, we're diamond, we're topaz. See, Babylon, they were gold. We're beyond gold, man. When you look at the 12 stones, you know, we have 12 stones. The Most High didn't give them a breastplate with a piece of iron here. You got a piece of clay. You got a piece of brass. No, man, that symbolizes weakness throughout time. When you look at the 12 stones of the ephod, when you look at the stones of the city, we have glorious stones, right? Which represents through the spirit the 12 tribes and our glory. Because everything we did was in order. We even had priests that went to war, right? Let me read Deuteronomy chapter 20 and 2 again. And this shall be when ye are come nigh unto the people, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, ye approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint. Fear not, and do not tremble, neither be ye terrified because of them. For Yahweh your God is he that goeth with you to fight for you and against your enemies to save you. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that hath built a new house and hath not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man dedicate it. So you had officers, you had your military, you had your so-called religion, right? Your priest, and you had your king that set this whole thing up. These are the laws of warfare. And that our warfare is of one accord with how our political structure is set up. And again, it is not the case with NATO and the EU. They are totally and completely divided. That's why it says, even as iron is not mixed with clay. The clay is their clay-like government, right? Where they can't cleave one to another. Where they're set up not to be on one accord and be of one mind. right? So not only are they called the 10 toes, they are also called the 10 horns. All right. So let's go into that. They are your 10 horns. Again, remember, NATO is your North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? The most important players in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization are the member countries themselves. There are currently 31 members. So you can sort this by date or alphabetically, right? Belgium in 1949, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, right? Luxembourg, the Netherlands, etc. Most of the countries came in the late 40s, early 50s, because they were set up to counter rising technology and power from the Soviet Union after World War II. That's why a lot of these countries, you see literally post-World War II, 4 years after, they said, we have to come together. We cannot allow Russia to take control. That's why all of these countries came together and formed NATO. They have come back together to make Rome all over again, right? Greece, Turkey, etc. Right? So this is your so-called NATO. And like we always go into, one of NATO's number one points we like to touch on is their Article 5. And what does Article 5 of NATO go into? Article 5, see that? They got it right here. Says that if you attack one NATO country, you attack all NATO countries. All right? So let's read about their military. Right? Again, this is your 10 toes. NATO is committed to the peaceful resolution of disputes. If diplomatic efforts fail, it has the military power to undertake crisis management operations. Meaning if they don't get their way, they go to war. Right? If they don't get what they want, they'll go to war with you. That's all that's saying. It's just fancy talk for if you don't get down with us, we'll go to war. It turns into a crisis for you. These are carried out under the Collective Defense Clause of NATO's founding treaty, Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, or under the United Nations mandate alone, or in cooperation with other countries and international organizations. So here's Article 5. Right? Let's see. Okay, Article 5. They have how many articles? 14 as of now, but let's look at Article 5. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to just read this last part. Any such armed attack and all measures taken as a result thereof shall immediately be reported to the Security Council. Such measures, actually, I want the beginning, Salakia. The parties agreed that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America should be considered an attack against them all. And consequently, they agreed to that. That's why they have that iron, because they agree as a military, all right, but not as a government, because they all have different governments. That if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individuals or collective defense recognized by Article 5.1 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party or parties so attacked by taking forthwith, right? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but really what it's saying is if you attack one, you attack them all, right? You attack one NATO country, you attack all NATO countries. That is the North Atlantic Treaty, Article 5. Okay? Now, why was NATO formed? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was created in 1949 by the United States, Canada, and several Western European nations to provide collective security against the Soviet Union. NATO was the first peacetime military alliance the United States entered into outside the Western Hemisphere. So it's really, they were formed not to go to war or to stop Russia from expanding. That's what the Soviet Union is, right? It's modern day Russia. And now you can see them on the brink of war all over again. The sole purpose of why they were created may play out on the earth in time to come as Russia and NATO seem to be going towards an inevitable head-to-head clash of death and destruction. Now, the political side of NATO is the European Union. And here's where you get your number 10 from, of your 10 horns. Right? Let's get your European Union. Bear with me. I have this as well. Okay, here's your European Union, or your 10 common markets. Right? If you look up, let's see. The European Economic Commission, or the 10 common markets. Right? And it goes into the European Union. Right? It goes into the European Union, the European Economic Committee, aka the European Union. Now, you can't tell me this isn't Rome again. The EEC, which is your European Economic Committee, or your 10 common markets, that's why we got 10 horns or the 10 toes, was created in 1957 by the Treaty of Rome. You think that's a coincidence? That them coming together is called the Treaty of Rome? No, that's the Most High. The Most High could have had this treaty happen anywhere. Yeah, one that happened in DC, the capital of modern day Rome, and another one called the Treaty of Rome to bring these Roman countries or provinces back together. And that's all it is. The European Union and NATO is nothing but former Roman provinces like Gaul, Hispania, Germania Inferior, Achaia, Belgica, all of these Roman provinces, it's nothing but them coming back together. That's what's called the Treaty of Rome, which was signed by Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and West Germany. The United Kingdom, Denmark, and Ireland joined in 73, followed by Greece in 81, and Portugal and Spain in 86. The former East Germany was admitted as part of reunified Germany in what? In 1990. All right. So you had these European countries that came together. All right. These are your 10 common markets, aka your European Union, which is what? Let's pull them up. Let's pull up your European Union on the map. Bear with me. Okay, here you have it. Right, from 6 to 27 members. Right, you're founding in 1951, 6 countries founded the European Coal and Steel Committee, and later in 57, the European Economic Committee and the European Atomic Energy Community. Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands. And then there's more countries that came after that. All right. There's more countries that came after that. All right. So your first 10 is Belgium, France at 2, Germany at 3, Italy at 4, Luxembourg at 5, the Netherlands at 6, Denmark at 7, Ireland at 8, the UK at 9, and Greece at 10. Those are your first 10 of the 10 toes or your 10 horns. 10 is also a number that means completion, because there's more than actually 10. There's over 25 European Union countries and over 30 NATO countries. So sometimes 10 can be taken literal with your first 10 countries, but also 10 means an indefinite amount or a whole amount of European countries. Okay, now let's prove that. Let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. This is the eagle that you read about in 2nd Ezra, chapter 11 and chapter 12. There is an eagle with 3 heads, 12 feathers, and 8 contrary feathers, right? Which is really the Roman Empire from the time that the empire was created all the way up into the last days. Just like Daniel covers the time that the Roman Empire was created all the way up into the last days. Right? Let's read on. And of what? And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So we want to talk about these 10 horns that were in his head. These 10 horns are the same thing as what? The 10 toes in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter. Right? And originally, it's the 10, right now it's your 10 common markets. Right? If you look up the European Union on the map, let's pull up the EU on the map. Right? Let's just pull it up. Right? Go into some WFI geography. All right. Now you add the Brexit, which we know about, but here's your European Union. And the UK, they might say they're not part of it. They still part of NATO, right? Nevertheless, and that shows that division too. Because what the hell is the UK saying? Well, look, we don't want no dealing with it. You're still part of it, right? So your European Union, when you look at it, it's nothing but Rome all over again. All of these countries you see at one time, they had Roman names. Those provinces are named France. It had a Roman name. Germany had a Roman name. Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, Greece. They all had Roman names. So we covered your 10, your first 10 toes or your 10 horns. Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Ireland, Denmark, Greece, and the UK. But let's go into their ancient names, because what you see now by names has changed in 2,000 years. So here's a map now of Rome and their ancient names. So you may say, well, where is Belgium? Where is Luxembourg? Well, they're part of these provinces that were part of Rome some 2,000 years ago. This is a map of Rome at its greatest extent. You can see the UK, they were called Britannia. France was called Gaul or Aquitania. Luxembourg, Vandalicia, right? That's where Luxembourg is. Belgium is in Germania Inferior. The Netherlands is in Belgica. Rome is Italia or Rome. Denmark, Germany, they're Germania Major, because Denmark came out of Germany. All right. You had Germania Inferior and Germania Superior. Some scholars would say Germania Minor and Germania Major. Right? And you had Greece, which is Achaia. Those are your 10 horns. All right. Those are your 10 horns, and these are their modern day names. Right? Again, going through it, the UK is Britannia. France was Gaul or Aquitania. Belgium, Slovakia, Luxembourg is Vandalica or Vandalicia, Slovakia. The Netherlands is Belgica. Right? Belgium is Germania Inferior. Germany and Denmark is Germania Superior or Germania Major. Italy is Italia or Rome. Right? Greece is Achaia. You had other people that came in like Spain and Portugal. That would be Hispania. You had Hispania Citerior and you had Hispania Ulterior. But then eventually became all of Hispania. So these are your 10 horns. We read in Daniel 7, out of the 10 horns came forth another horn. So out of Britannia came forth another horn, which is America. And that's why America is also part of NATO, because they came out of Britannia. That's why NATO is America, Canada, and Western Europe predominantly, because Canada came out of France and America came out of England. All right, so let's pull this up. Right, let's see. That's why here's your modern day Rome. Same thing. Still see Britannia, Gaul, Valendicia, Belgica, Germania Inferior, Germania Major, Italia, Achaia, which is Greece, Hispania, which is Spain. Right? Remember, England is just America is just the offshoot of Britannia. Canada is just an offshoot of Gaul. So this is why we say this is Rome all over again. And this all started with the Treaty of Rome in the late 1950s. The Treaty of Rome is what brought Rome essentially together on a political level. And when you have a political structure, you need a military structure. That's why these are your 10 toes or your 10 horns, right? As we read them in the book of Daniel chapter 7, right? Let's go to another account. Let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? So we have to go through this history and go through this prophecy because NATO plays a major role. Let's see where I'm at with time. Okay, making decent time, right? In prophecy. Revelation chapter 13 and 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, what is Revelation 13 speaking about? Speaking about Rome. This is the same dragon that you read about in Revelation 12. And it has 7 heads. What are the 7 heads? Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, Great Britain. Greece was formerly Achaia that we read about. Rome was ancient Rome, right? Or Italia. Spain was Hispania, right? Like I said, you had Hispania Ulterior, you had Hispania Citeria, or Nova Carthago and New Carthage and things of that nature, right? So you had Greece, you have Rome, you have Spain, you have France. France was Gaul or Aquitania, right? You had Germany, which was Germania Minor and Germania Major, aka Germania Inferior and Germania Superior, right? You had Russia. Russia came out of Eastern Europe, right? They came an offshoot of Germanic tribes along with the people of Rus. So the people of Rus came from the north, and they're all Edomites. Every Edomite that's in Europe, they didn't randomly get there. They came when Esau went up and founded Rome and Greece, man. So even if the people of Rus, they came from the Edomites that started Rome and Greece. There's no secret Edomite that got up to Scandinavia prior to Esau going up in the time of the early Greeks and the time of the early Romans. So any Edomite up in Europe, they essentially came out of Rome. All right. There's no secret Edomite that wasn't part of the Roman Empire. Every Edomite country came out of Rome. They may have had different origins. They may not have been a chief province. Like Germany, it's not a chief province in the ancient times, but it is today. Germania Major. So Russia is a mix of what they call Slavic tribes, right? Let's pull up the Slavic tribes on this map again. When you look at provinces like Dacia, right? The Scythians, right? When you look up these different people, you have people from the north, Germanic tribes that mixed with them, and they eventually formed what you call Russia. That's why the feet of this empire is Russia, because Russia is part of this system. They're the bear. So they are part of this kingdom. All right, let's go back to Revelation 13. So the 7 heads is Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain, which is Britannia. Those are your 7 heads. And we covered the 10 horns already. Right? We covered your 10 horns, or your 10 common markets. And upon his horns, 10 crowns, because all of these people are in power or in rulership. And upon his heads, the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard. And we've covered this before. That's your Greeks, right? Because Alexander the Greek essentially fought with a leopard skin hat. The leopard is also the Greeks in Daniel 7. And it represents the swiftness of them conquering the known world. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. The bear are the Russians. They're the last end of this modern day Roman Empire, right? And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So 3 major components of this beast is the bear, right? The feet of the bear, which is Russia. Babylon the Great, which is the little horn. And you also have your 10 horns, right? These are your 3 major European powers on the earth right now. There's no greater European powers or Edomite kingdoms on the earth in the last days outside of Babylon the Great, the European Union, and Russia, right? Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras. Right? Let's go to 2nd Esdras, and let's go to the 12th chapter. Right? And they're going to play a major role in biblical prophecy. Russia, America, and the European Union. All right. First, before we get that, well, yeah, let's deal with that one first. All right. This is Revelation. It's like your 2nd Esdras, chapter 12. It's like he got me in chapter 1. Salakia. I want chapter 12. Right? Salakia. This is 2nd Esdras. Right? Bear with me. All right. Now, this vision that he saw is the Roman Empire. All right. And we've covered part of this, so I'm not going to tackle this whole chapter. Covered the 12 feathers, right? We covered the 8 contrary feathers. I want to deal with the 3 heads, right? Remember, this beast is the Roman Empire. It is the same beast in Daniel 7. Daniel 7 starts off with the Roman Empire and it ends with America as the little horn. So you're going to see that same understanding in 2nd Esdras 12. It starts with the Roman Empire and it includes America because it's the same beast as Daniel 7. Right? Yeah, brother saying, well, no, 2nd Esdras 12 doesn't include America. 2nd Esdras 11 doesn't include America. Well, it's the same thing as Daniel 7. Right? Daniel 7 includes America. So this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 12 and verse 22. And whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. And I had a picture, right, of what the mighty scribe Thawam put together of the eagle. The 3 heads of the eagle, right? You can see America, right, which is the middle head. You have Europe, the European Union, and you have Russia. These are the 3 heads of the eagle. And if you look on the left and the right, on the left, you got your 12 feathers, right? Julius Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. You got the voice from the midst of the eagle, which is the crisis of the 3rd century, where Rome almost fell, but came back into power. Then on the right, you have your 8 contrary feathers, right? On the right, you have your 8 contrary feathers, right? So we want to focus on the 3 heads. We want to deal with the last 3 major kingdoms of the so-called white man. We want to deal with the feet of the bear. We want to deal with the eagle, So like we want to deal with Babylon the Great, and we want to deal with the European Union. All right, these are the last three heads of the eagle. Let's read about that in Second Esdras. Second Esdras chapter 12 and 22. Right? Second Esdras, Salakia, chapter 12 and verse 22. And whereas thou sawest three heads resting, this is the interpretation. In his last days, and these are the last days, and it's the last days of Rome. All right. In his last days shall the Most High raise up three kingdoms, not three people, three kingdoms, and renew many things therein, and they shall have dominion of the earth. And when you look at the earth right now, what powers, what Edomite kingdoms have power on the earth? Right? Is it Australia and New Zealand? No, man. When you study what's going on in the earth right now, it's Babylon the Great. They're the first kingdom, right? Let's pull this up. Right, bear with me. Right, this is Babylon the Great and their territories. In the last days of modern day Rome, you're going to have three major Edomite powers. One of them is Babylon the Great. So here's a map of Babylon the Great, and they actually have other provinces and territories: Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Marinea or Marina Islands, American Samoa, and the Virgin Islands, right? And then you have your second power, right? Which is, it's like I want to make sure I have to order these maps. You have Russia. They are also another major power, the feet of the bear. And then your last power is your European Union. All right? The European Union. These are your main three Edomite kingdoms that are running the earth in the last days. From a military level, with their nuclear weapons and influence, to a political level, to an economic level, Russia is running the East as the vanguards of China, Iran, Iraq. You have the European Union, they're doing their thing. Do you have America? Right, they're also doing their thing. Right, Salaki, bear with me. Right, they are also doing their thing as well. Now, let's go back to this. Right, again, your three heads of the eagle: America, the European Union, and Russia. All right, let's go back to 2nd Esdras chapter 12 and read 23 again. In his last days, meaning in the last days of modern day Rome, shall the Most High raise up three kingdoms and renew many things therein. And that Renaissance kicked off the renewal. That's what allowed Russia to form. And all them Edomites came back into power from the Slavic countries. That's how the European Union came back into power. America came out of that. That's how it was renewed. And they shall have dominion of the earth. And they do have dominion of the earth, man. Who's going to tell these three kingdoms what to do? Who's going to tell Russia what to do? And if these three heads were all on one accord, nobody could go against them. Not Iran, because Iran is looking to Russia for help. Right? All them countries are looking for Russia to be their father, Mother Russia. And if America and the EU wasn't always clashing and they linked up with Russia, they'll rule the whole world. Esau will rule the earth. I mean, he's ruling the earth now, but his kingdom's being divided. So they have dominion of the earth. What is the classic precept? The earth is given to who? To the hands of the wicked. Let's go to Job 9. Right, let's get the classic. Right, Job 9 and 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, If not, where and who is he? So Esau has power, but is it just America ruling the earth? No, they're chief in it. They're the hammer of the earth, but there's other Edomite kingdoms along with America that are helping run the earth, right? Slakia, that are helping run the earth in the last days, right? That are helping them run the earth in the last days. All right, so let's go back to this. 2nd Ezra 12. And those that dwell therein with much oppression, above all those that were before them, therefore are they called the heads of the eagle, because they're the ones causing the most oppression on the earth. They're the heads of the eagle. More oppression than Octavian, right? More than Nerva, more than Aurelian, Diocletian, right? They're the heads of the eagle. For these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness and that shall finish his last end. So when modern day Rome goes out, these three major kingdoms are going to play a major role. It's like in World War III and fighting against Yahushua. Gog and Magog, prophetically, the 10 horns, prophetically, and Babylon the Great, prophetically, they're going to finish Esau's last end. There will be no other kingdom to come into power outside of Russia, America, and the EU in these last days. They're here to finish the job. That's why they got 90,000 troops getting ready. That's why Gog and Magog is prophesied as Russia and its allies. That's why the 10 horns are going to turn against this beast, man, America. They're here to finish the job. Now let's read about these three horns and these three heads in 2nd Ezra chapter 11. Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and verse 32. I'm going to start at 30. And I saw that the two other heads, let's see, Salakia, I want 28. 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and 28. And I beheld, and lo, the two that remained thought also in themselves to reign. So the two that thought in themselves to reign was England, France, Spain, right? They thought to reign. They thought that they would be the new world power. They thought they would go and conquer the known world and divide up the earth like a piece of pie. And when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that were at rest, namely it that was in the midst, for that was greater than the two other heads. This head that was in the midst is America. Just when England, Spain, France, you even had other countries like Portugal and Germany, they thought they were coming to power. Post-Renaissance and the age of exploration and military conquest. When they thought that was it, here comes America, and they defeated England, Spain, and France. And then I saw that the two other heads were joined with it, because the Mosai said that these three kingdoms are going to come in the last days and have complete power over the earth. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the two feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. And this head is Babylon the Great, America. Remember, 2nd Ezra 11 and 12 is the same thing as Daniel 7. Daniel 7 starts with the beginning of the Roman Empire all the way to the end of America. To the eagle's body was burned and slain and given to the flame, paraphrasing. Same thing as this. What kingdom, because they're a kingdom pursuant to 2nd Ezra 12, rule over the earth with much oppression, right? What kingdom is that, man? That's Babylon the Great. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50, right? That's how we know that that's speaking of America. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder, And how has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? So who's the hammer of the whole earth? Who's beating them down? Who has more governance and military bases throughout the world than America? Who can drop a bomb like that and make fire come down from heaven when all the world worshiped the beast and said, who is like unto the beast who is able to make war with him? That is America. They're the hammer of the whole earth. They will beat you down and invade you, man, and take your children from you and your gold and your heroin, man, or your dope, your opium and gold and oil and your guns. Isaiah chapter 14 and verse Salaki. Now this is speaking about Babylon the Great. I believe I want 4. Isaiah chapter 14 and 4. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. So they are called the oppressor. And second Esdras, the Lord said that this head rules with much oppression. They are the oppressor of the earth. Right? Nations have got to be sodomites. If you're not a sodomite, they'll bomb you. You got to accept the dollar. If you don't, they'll invade your government with the CIA and enslave you with the IMF and, financially make you an everlasting servant to them. Huh? And they'll put military bases and churches and sodomite bars and McDonald's and strip clubs and all in your damn land, huh? And make it a tourist attraction and deprive you of all of your culture and your morals, huh? If you don't get down with them. So they are called the hammer of the whole earth. They are also called the oppressor. Verse 5. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. So he's constantly ruling the nations. He has embassies, military bases, laws, legislation. That's what they call America, the great Satan. He's ruling the earth with much oppression. He is the head of the eagle that is in the midst. Right? He is the head of the eagle that is in the midst. All right. And there's more precepts we can get on that, but for sake of time, let's go back to 2nd Esdras 11 and let's read 32 again. But this head put the whole earth in fear and bear rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been, meaning more than all of the feathers. All right. And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings. But there remained 2 other heads, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth and over those that dwelt therein. Because eventually America is going to be destroyed. All right. America is going to be one of the first countries taken out in World War III. And then you're going to have Gog and Magog and the 10 horns. All right. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it upon the left side. Because then you're going to have the European Union. They're going to turn against America. Let me get that. Let's prove that. And they're going to fight against Gog and Magog as well. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Right? This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns, that's your EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So they're going to turn against America. All of these 3 heads are going to go out. The 3 heads of the eagle, they're going to go out in different ways. First, America is going to be taken out by Russia, but also by the EU. But the credit is given to the head on the right side. Because Russia, they're going to play a major part in the destruction of America. That's what they call it, the feet of the bear. In the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. But the EU, really a lot of nations are going to have their hand in it. When you read Jeremiah 50, 51, but the credit in Revelation 17 is coming from the EU for the sake of the prophecy of Rome. And second measures, the credit is given to Russia, right? And then you're going to have Russia and the EU fight. Then those two heads of the eagle, they're going to fight one against another. And Russia's going to have the upper hand. Now, the EU, they're still going to have their army in the Middle East because they're still going to fight against Yahushua. Right? Just like some of Babylon, they're going to have their armies in the Middle East. Even though the country may be destroyed, their soldiers are still going to be stationed out in the Middle East, along with Russia. Right? But the upper hand is going to be given to Russia out of all these other countries. All right? Let's go back to this. 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and 35. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it, that was upon the left side. Then I heard a voice which said unto me, look before thee, and consider the thing that thou seest. Right? And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion, chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent the man's voice into the eagle, and said, so the lion out of the wood is Yahushua. Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, art not thou it that remaineth of the four beasts, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? So the end of Esau's rulership is going to come through America, the European Union, and Russia. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. Yeah, they're the fake Jews. They're the people of the Most High. Right there in the land of Israel. They're the angels. They're the Heavenly Father. Right? They dwell upon the earth with deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth. For thou hast afflicted the meek. Thou hast hurt the peaceable. Who's the peaceable? Who's the meek? The Israelites, man. Thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and cast down the walls of such as did no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also hath looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed, and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her. So the Most High is going to burn up this entire eagle. But the eagle first, before they get burnt up, they're going to destroy one another and rip each other apart, bro. Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 12. Right? They're going to fight one against another. Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and verse 26 again. Right? 2nd Ezra chapter 12 and 26. And whereas thou sawest, the great head appeared no more. It signified that one of them shall die upon his bed and yet with pain. And that's America. What does it mean that you die upon your bed and yet with pain? Meaning when you least expect it. Right? When you least expect it. When you're in your bed, you're comfortable. You're at ease. Whether you're sick or whether you're healthy, you're at ease. Right? You may be asleep. Right? You're in your own security of your home. So how are men are going to die upon their bed and yet with pain? That's how America's going out when they least expect it. Let's go to Job chapter 20 and 22. Right, they're going to die upon their bed and yet with pain. Job chapter 20 and 22. And the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon them. So when Babylon are great, when they think they're full, and they think they got this thing figured out, and they're going to rule the earth and be the next power to take down everybody else. In his fullness, he's going to be catching hell. He will be catching hell. And all of the other nations are going to go against him. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. That's why it says in his bed or while he is eating, in the fullness of his sufficiency, because they're going to be taken out when they least expect it. When these nations begin to shoot, Russia, you understand, Iran, they're going to shoot their missiles, and these people are going to be destroyed, man. You know, like in the days of Lot or in the days of Noah. Let's get another precept about upon your bed. Right? Let's go to 1 Samuel. Like I want 2 Samuel. Chapter 4. Let's get an example of that. 2 Samuel chapter 4 and verse 5. And the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, and Rechab, and Baanah went and came about the heat of the day to the house of Ishbosheth, who lay on a bed at noon. See that? And they came thither into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat. And they smote him under the fifth rib, and Rechab and Baanah, his brother, escaped. And when they came into his house, he lay on his bed in his bedchamber. And they smote him and slew him and beheaded him and took his head and gat them away through the plain all night. That's how America's going out, man. Upon their bed, these other nations going to break through their defense system with their intercontinental ballistic missiles, rain it upon them while they're eating, and get them away. So they're going to go out like this guy went out, man. Again, that's why it says, one of them shall die upon his bed and yet with pain. And it's not Russia. They're going to go out a different way. It's not the EU. They're going to go out a different way. That's how Babylon the Great is going to go out. Verse 27. For the two that remain shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, but at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. Because again, the EU and Russia, they're going to go to war. Right? They're going to be fighting amongst one another. And Russia's going to have the upper hand. See, everybody's going to have their troops in the Middle East. That's the book of Revelation, chapter 16. Joel, the 3rd chapter. Right? But when you read Revelation 9, you read about the bottomless pit being attacked. And I'm summing up for a lot for sake of time, right? Because we got to go to camp soon, you know. But you read about the bottomless pit being attacked and Europe being attacked. That's why NATO, the war that they think they're going to have it. But NATO's not going to be NATO. Why? Because they're going to turn against America. And they're not going to have a defense against Russia. Because Russia, China, Iran, all of this goes into the kings of the East. And they're going to fight against Babylon the Great. That's why a key prophecy is Daniel. Let's get this quick precept in Daniel 11. Right? This is Daniel chapter 11 and verse 44. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. What are tidings out of the east? This is coming from when America and NATO predominantly come and sweep through and invade the so-called Middle East, and they start taking these nations down, right? That push against them. America is going to feel threatened once Russia gets involved, once China gets involved. That's what it means, tidings out of the east and out of the north. Out of the north is Russia. Out of the east is China and its allies. And they're going to trouble America because they're going to bring their troops over to the Middle East. Therefore, he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and to utterly make away many. Because you're going to have war going on in that region. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace, which are the tabernacles of your palace is your military tents. When nations would go to war, they would set their military tents up. Right? When you study ancient warfare, and they'll set their tents up with all of their swords and all of their weapons. So the tabernacles of your palace is going into the military tents and booths and barracks that are going to be set up by Babylon the Great in the so-called Middle East, because they're going to be there too. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. What's the holy mountain? The land of Israel, because that's where Armageddon is going to be taking place in that region. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. He's going to come to his end due to the east and north, due to Russia and China. But America's not going to be the only nation in this region. The EU, they're going to have their soldiers there. Russia, they're going to have soldiers there. Everybody's going to have their soldiers in that region. So when you go back to this, it's like in 2nd Ezra 12, it's speaking about now these final European nations clash. After America's destroyed and they all have their soldiers in that region, Russia's going to push and clash against the EU. But then Russia, they're going to fall through the sword themselves. What does it mean you fall through the sword yourself? It means when the Most High turned your army against your own army, right? Let's go to Judges 7. Actually, let's read that in Ezekiel first, 38. That's how Gog and Magog are going to go out. Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse, Slaki, I want, right, bear with me, 21. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, said the Lord God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. What does that mean? Every man's sword shall be against his brother. See, the Most High, he's going to turn them and make them fight against each other. So when Gog and Magog try to take down and fight against Yahushua, Yahushua is going to have them, every man with his gun, turn against his ally, his friendly fire, and it's going to be nothing but massacre. And that's something that the Most High always does, man. And while they fighting against each other, the Most High going to rain fire and brimstone too on them. Right? Let's get that, and let's get what it means. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. That's why 2nd Ezra say he's going to fall through the sword himself. Right? Because they're going to really do a self-destruction, man. Let's get an example of that. Let's go to Judges chapter 7. Let's get an example of that. This is Judges chapter 7 and 22. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the hosts. And the host fled to Beth Shittah and Zererath, and to the border of Abel Maola unto Tabbath. See, that's so the Most High can have you fall through the sword yourself and have an army just commit a massive friendly fire against one another. Right? And the Lord did that in the time of Judges. So Israel didn't have to fight. He had them kill each other. Go to 2nd Chronicles 20. And one more account of that. 2nd Chronicles chapter 20 and 23. For the children of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, utterly to slay and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, every one helped destroy another. So the Lord used the Ammonites and the Moabites to fight against the Edomites. And then once they killed the Edomites, the Most High had the Ammonites and the Moabites fight against each other. That's what it means. You fall through the sword yourself. You kill your own self. Because the Most High is going to make them fight against their own people. Huh? And while they fight against each other, the Lord is going to destroy them. That's what this means. You shall fall through the sword himself. So that's how they're going to go out. Gog and Magog are going to go out in that fashion. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20. So while they're fighting amongst each other, actually, let's finish this. The Lord is going to rain fire and brimstone. Right? Let's read this again. Ezekiel chapter 38 and 21. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And I will plead against him with pestilence and blood. And I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him an overflowing rain of great hailstones, fire and brimstone. So while they fight amongst each other, the Most High is going to pull them, and he's going to rain upon them fire and brimstone. That's how the last head of the eagle is going out, through the sword himself. So yeah, we see NATO, we see Russia prophetically getting ready for war, right? And you have, right, 90,000 troops getting stationed for World War III. But we know what's really going to happen. We know what's going to happen. They're going to summon their troops, and then NATO is going to become more divided. They're going to break off and destroy America, along with Russia, Iran, and the kings of the East. And then you're going to have Russia have the upper hand, but then they're going to be taken out as Gog and Magog by Yahweh Shah. And all of this is going to happen predominantly where? In the so-called Middle East, right? That's why it says he shall plant his tabernacles in a glorious holy mountain. Because all of the nations are going to plant their tabernacles. They're all going to set their troops up in this region. You know? Right? So that's what you read about in the book of Daniel, the latter end, the 11th chapter. And then you also read about that in 2nd Ezra. All nations are going to be in this region, all of their armies. But we know how it's going to play out. Even though war may kick off and start off with Russia and, you know, the EU and things like that, it's all going to end right here when it's all said and done anyway. It's all going to be finished in this region. America, they're going to plant their tabernacles here between the two seas, right? The Northern Army that you read about in Joel. Russia, they're going to set their armies here that because they're part of the kings of the East, and Iran. They're all going to set their tabernacles here and fight one against another. And the three heads of the eagle are going to be used to destroy one another in the last days. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashima Mashiach Omalak Yahushai. Keep the Sabbath holy. No buying, no selling, no sex on the Sabbath, no cooking, no doing your own pleasures, speaking your own words. Keep this day holy and call upon the name of Yahweh Ba'ashima Mashiach Omalak Yahushai. With that, most I willing you are edified. Kwam Yasha. Shalom.